pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:32, and the first item here is a public hearing. Henry Ikara, Inc., doing business at Red Rock Pizza for transferring stock to new stockholder and change of manager. And Bill O'Grady is representing the parties.
Good evening, William O'Grady from Southampton. I represent.
Yeah, please, sure.
The first of two hearings tonight. First is Akara. There is a transfer of stock being proposed from Ephemios Rizzo's, who is a stockholder, to the Ephemios Rizzo's Family Trust. It triggers a change that needs your approval. I have attached a query form for the trustee. There's no monetary consideration, so there's no bank statements being accompanied. It's no monetary consideration. Transfer for estate planning purposes.
The presumption is that the family trust doesn't need a query, I'm assuming, because it's...
It does. The trustee does.
Right.
So I have submitted a query form for the trustee. And I just noticed, I don't see a driver's license or a passport in your folder, so I'll deliver one to you, because I think you should have that when you send it down for the trustee. But other than that, I think the package is complete.
I don't see it.
Proper vote.
Do we have a letter in here? Part, this one.
Yep, we have a letter in the back page, too. Okay. Motion to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded to approve as requested the application for change of license.
And there's actually two things we're asking for. We're asking for a Akara. Actually, there's four things. A new stockholder, transfer of stock, which creates a new officer director. And for the Akara file, we've also got a change of manager request. Because Ephemios was the manager, Antonios will be the new manager. And there's a query form in here for him also. It's already passed, I think, several times with the other businesses.
So I just counted three. New stockholder, transfer of stock, and change of manager request.
New officer director.
Oh, okay.
Okay, motion to approve all four in regard to that one.
Second.
So we would need to technically withdraw the other motion.
I withdraw my first motion.
We have a new motion which has been made and seconded to approve as requested the four items with respect to Laxios Limit. Oh, it's okay. So Ikara and its four components, which are new stockholder, transfer of stock, change of manager request, and a new officer and director. Any further discussion on this?
Sure.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Got that?
Just tell Reggie, I will drop off, in that case, the two IDs tomorrow.
Sure, okay.
And I give you Antonios tonight.
Okay,
I'll give you the trustees tomorrow.
sure.
We actually might want to make that vote contingent on the presentation of that appropriate identification.
Okay.
You should copy of his passports. I mean, his citizenship papers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? And I'll get you Jeanette's tomorrow. And I gave you the tear sheet.
Yes, yes.
William, anticipating a lot of pushback, we gave you 20 minutes for that, and you exceeded not exceeded, you succeeded in not using that, so.
I sometimes go over. But I think we have to leave them.
Yeah, let's see.
I'm not sure if
Another public hearing, I think we do have to wait, unfortunately. What we can do is,
We can go on to other.
well, we can go into other things, though. So what we do next is Attorney Amanda Zadonis Kemp. In Chapter 61, gun, 2 forms in the signature folder.
So,
Right here.
we are looking for you to not exercise your right of first refusal on lot 66 on Glen Road. Even though this is no longer taxed with the benefit of the 61A, the statute says that whenever it's removed within 1 year, if it's going to be, the use is going to be converted, we still have to give you the option to purchase. So that's what I am looking for. So I'm looking to have you not exercise your right to purchase lot 66 on Glen Road.
Okay, I make a motion not to exercise our right, as discussed.
You're splitting your infinitives, Doug. It's to not exercise.
You get the gist.
Actually, okay, yeah. Okay, a motion's been made and seconded not to exercise a right of purchase, right? It's a right of purchase. With respect to the 61A land, and there's a deed reference here, 3575/243. Any further discussion? Okay, this is, did you present both? Or just one? You presented 2 or 1? I've got
Just one, it's lot 66.
Okay.
I just have signed 2 forms, so that way we don't have a name to wait.
Okay. No, that's bad.
The first page is...
We want to get this done tonight. This is one. And there's one. I got one.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, Finance Committee is not here. That's all you have? Okay. Good to see you again, thank you. That brings us down to payroll warrant then. Andy, you want to read that?
We have a payroll warrant, P1243, for a total amount of $221,621.21. Move to approve.
Do we have a second on the payroll warrant?
Second.
In favor? Aye. Okay.
We also have a bill warrant, W12-43, for a total amount of $1,008,710.84.
There you go.
So move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item we have then is the personnel request form for the town accountant position. And the reason for this is to replace David Kielson, who is retired as of, or effective March 30th of this year, 2012. And the job description is, Reggie took the time to transcribe this from existing documents. It's the same as the 1998 descriptions, which are actually informed by at least Mass Municipal Association, not law, except there are some transactions that conform to Mass General Law and sound municipal accounting practices. Because actually the position of town accountant is defined in Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 55. And it is an appointment of the Select Board for a term of 3 years. So actually, I do withdraw what I said earlier. It is technically defined in Mass General Law, as well as being described in Mass Municipal Association. So what we're being asked to do tonight is to approve this personnel requisition form so that we can then post the job in the appropriate places and then receive resumes and interview people. David Kielsen has offered to help us vet or otherwise review the resumes that we receive and further to train people, the person, I'm assuming one person who would come in.
I move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. So,
Excuse me, Chair. What were the hours and are you still going to go with the salary range of 20 to 30,000? And what were the hours? Are you going to still stick with the 20 hours? It was voted at one of the meetings to do that.
true enough, yeah, so we would need to actually unvote that technically, wouldn't we? 'Cause I thought
We moved our first motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up, Reggie. So we have a range here of 20 to 32 hours and a range from anywhere from 25,000 to 40,000. So based on what we understand from looking at area literature and payroll descriptions and things like that, that the range is going to be closer to 30 to 40 than it is 25 to 30. But similarly, the hours are going to be 24 plus as opposed to 20.
I think Michael Phelan was here when that motion was made, so I'm not sure. And when they voted on March 20th, it was 20 to 30,000 for the range 20 hours.
Right. So we can wait for Michael then, because he was here. That might be the best thing.
And he made the motion for a minimum of an accounting degree with 1 to 5 years municipal accounting experience.
Mhm. And just to remind the board, there's no such degree for a municipal accountant. You don't have to have an accounting degree to be a municipal accountant. You do have to understand municipal accounting, which is a black hole of data. So, okay, well, why don't we, if you're all right, the board's okay with that, we'll just hold this till Michael gets here. Okay, moving on then. One-day licenses. Galpin, do you want to read this?
See, we have a one-day liquor license, Todd and Donna Galpin, 60 Pleasant Street, Southampton. It's for a one-day beer and wine permit for Saturday, May 5th, 2012. And he has the application permit, hold harmless, and how about the
Check?
check?
Check has been received. I don't put it in that packet.
Oh,
Pardon?
yeah, she didn't put
The check has
it.
been received.
Okay, but it's not in the packet.
Correct.
I move to approve the one-day license for Todd and Donna Galpin.
Okay, were we invited to?
I don't think so.
I move to approve the one-day license for the Galpins on May the 5th.
Second.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded to approve the Galpin license for May 5th. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Eileen is not here to notarize, but,
In the past, the board has voted on for yourself to be present in front of Eileen.
right, so I just come down. Okay, the next one we have then is town owner agreements with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and this has to do with our role in the hill towns, in Hilltown development. And this particular one has to do with a subordination agreement, discharge of lien, commitment letter, and an invoice in the amount of $10,892.68. Again, this is not money that we're spending, this is in our role as, technically, we're sort of the clearinghouse for all this information that comes through. So, we have signed these routinely in the past. If anybody wants to discuss them, we can certainly do that.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, well, there are several here, so that'll keep us, it's the Community Development Fund program. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Drinkers.
What did they come in about what?
What's the matter?
Oh,
24, today is the 24th. Okay, so I think just I signed these. So if you want to move ahead then with the next item that we can do.
Let's see, interim town administrator's report. We have that from Reggie.
There are 2 items on there. The first one is Mr. Redinger came back from who installed the wires for the cameras, and if the board is satisfied with the reinstallation or the correction of the wires, would you approve the submittal of the invoice?
We have our resident expert.
I know. He's the man to check to see if this has been done right.
This one on the last page.
Much, much, much better.
Yeah, that looks good going over the door.
Much better, yes.
On the price for that, did he quote us a price before?
Yes,
Did this, was this the price?
I believe so. I have the contract.
Get that date.
Where's that? Oh, did you take Mike's one?
And this is the contract.
Thank you.
Sometimes I have it every time.
Tons of them, too.
Okay.
So that was the first.
And it's 1750 plus 350, is that what it was?
Yeah, he's got 2410 here, so there must be something.
I thought I saw somewhere in there travel.
He's got 1750, which he's got there,
Yeah,
and then 300,
yeah. But then if you go back here,
150, and 210. Go ahead.
and if you go back, I thought I saw something about,
Yeah, there was some time and material
okay,
things.
okay.
So, okay, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good, okay. I make a motion to approve this bill for 2410. It's been verified, it's good, we're good.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the invoice in the amount of $2,410. Do we have any further discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Okay. Bill, we're back at $650, right back to you. William, excuse me, I keep saying Bill.
This is a very similar transaction. This is for Laxios Limited, which is the Opa property. This is simply a transfer of stock to the stockholder. We're not adding a director, and we are not changing managers. So that there will just be 2 things. You'll notice that this one's a little different, and then it says all alcohol and pub brewery.
Right.
You would only be voting on the all alcohol. I've styled it both in the same form because there are no equivalent forms for the state level transfer, but we still have to get their approval. So I've just done it all in one form, so the ABCC. I'm hoping we recognize that it's the identical forms for their transfer, but you don't give the first approval for the pub brewery, only for the all alcohol.
Should we have any reason to be, I don't know, concerned or aware of that? That different, there's a brewery on the same physical premises.
Right, but there's 2 licenses. There is, they issue the pub brewery license, you issue the all alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah.
that it comes directly from them. And again, there's no similar forms to transfer stock at the pub brewery level. So it's just, I've included it on yours, but you only have authority over the all alcohol.
So it doesn't function, say, as in the business world, where you'd have a wholly owned subsidiary or affiliate or something like that?
Completely separate licensing process.
Okay. All right.
Motion to approve?
Okay, just one other thing for the record, too. We do have the legal notice that was placed in the Gazette, appropriately time and wording, too.
And the same as last time, I'll need to get you a copy of the trustee's photo ID.
Second.
Okay, we do have a check here as well. Okay, if I could just caution that we vote on this depending on the presentation of the appropriate identification. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. William, you got it.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we- Change of license. Regarding who owns the license. Who's subject to that?
Who now owns it?
The trustees. He's putting it into a new stockholder, which is a family trust. Jeff?
Do we have a lady back there that wants to say something?
Yeah. Ma'am, did you have something you wanted to bring up? We can call open time for the public. We're sort of, our schedule is,
Representing the library, I guess. I didn't get notice that we weren't supposed to be here, so...
well, it was interesting because the library was here last week, but we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't have a meeting, but the library was out in the hall
Yeah,
talking.
I was here then, too.
Yeah, that's right, I did remember. So,
No, I'm just listening. If anybody has any questions, I probably can't answer them, but I would certainly try to.
sure. How would you rate the current usage of the library compared to what you may have seen in the past?
Well, think about that. I think it's growing more and more, and from what I understand, one of our main concerns was keeping it open, the extended hours
Right.
that we come to get used to. And so,
My understanding is we voted on that yesterday.
did you?
We did.
I didn't get the email, I guess.
We did and approved it.
The budget for us to do,
Continue.
to allow that, that's great.
So some good news for you.
Yeah.
Very
It
good.
was worth the trip.
And our new librarian seems to be interested in promoting a lot of new programs. I think as people get to know her, they'll be excited about what she's bringing to the town.
Good. All right, great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks.
I think I'll just, it sounds a little interesting. I think I'll just stay and listen for a while.
George, did you have anything in open time for the public?
I know Dad has suggested we cut the budget by 20%.
Instead of the 30? Right. See, we planned to cut it 30, so you're actually
Giving us a raise.
giving us a raise. Oh, well. So we're going for Select Board of the Year.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to what we can do, we're waiting for the Finance Committee to come in. I think at this time there, I'll come in and talk to Eileen, Interim Town, we've done that. Select Board meetings, the next one is May 1st, followed by 7 days later, May 8th. And of course, May 8th represents the reorganization. That will be the day after, obviously, the May 7th election.
May 8th, 6:30.
Right, 6:30, so there will be presumably 2 new Select Board members. The annual town election warrant. Reggie, you said you looked at that last night, too?
Yes.
No, the annual town meeting warrant.
Ah.
The annual town election warrant is in your pile for signatures.
Right, the annual town meeting.
I have a town election, correct. Yeah. Okay, so we can do this, and Michael And sign when he gets here, I think, consistent with the vote, I think. So this is the warrant for the annual town election on May 7th, 2012, and it is readings. I won't read all of the different positions that are up. However, this is what we're required to do. I'm sorry, I'm really hoarse. Would you mind reading this? Food allergies.
Okay, so this is a warrant for the annual town election on May 7th, in the town of Southampton. Hampshire,
No, just say that it's all
Greetings.
20 different positions.
I got your pen, Mike.
Oh, okay.
You need it
It's
tonight.
Greetings in the name of the Commonwealth of
Realized when I'm driving here, I had no
Massachusetts.
pen.
You're hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Southampton qualified to vote in elections and town affairs. Select by AccuVote, ballot?
AccuVote.
Misspelled. On Monday, the 7th day of May 2012, at the new town hall, 210 College Highway in said Southampton. The following town officers, and there's about, what, I say, 20 openings for various terms, 1 to 3 years. Polls open at noon and remain open till 8.
Okay.
So it looks like we need our signatures.
First, we need to move to approve. We need to do
Move
that.
to approve the warrant for the annual town election.
Second.
Those in favor. Any further discussion first? Those in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead. Okay, Michael, we're waiting for the Finance Committee at 7:15.
Okay.
But in the meantime, we're talking also about the PRF for the town accountant.
We have that in the package.
And just to give you an update, Reggie took the 1998 description, which actually is defined under Mass General Law, Chapter 41, and as the basis for the description of the posting of the position. So the particular concern at this point is, with the posting, what hours and what salary range would we post and other requirements? There'd been some talk about requiring a degree in accounting. My concern is that there's no degree available in municipal accounting, and having a degree in CPA-style accounting wouldn't necessarily help.
Would you want to set experience levels then?
Good.
Experience in-
I didn't say a word.
I was just going to say. It was a nice thought, though.
I offered him a pen. I says, I got you a pen for this meeting. And he went to write with it, and it didn't write. And I said, I didn't say it worked.
Trojan horse.
He's being
It's a reject.
bored, so you gotta spice him up a little bit.
It's a reject. It's a nice looking pen, I gotta give you that. It looks great.
Looks are important.
I think we're good. Yeah, if you got one, let me borrow one. Thank you.
Draw his attention to this page. Reggie, you know,
Yeah, that's what we're
Mike,
talking about.
I know, but
Oh.
if you draw attention to
Now,
that
Mike,
page. so
there is a
that-
page which gives the ranges that have been discussed. You were here, actually, when one was voted on, March
Yep.
20th.
I believe I was here too. But I can't remember if we settled on this range or not.
You did. You voted on the range with the 20 to 30, 20 hours minimum. Well, Mike had made the motion for accounting degree and 1 to 5 years municipal experience in accounting
Or
experience.
1 to 5 years
Yep,
experience.
Well, in municipal accounting.
correct.
I mean, you're not going to draw somebody off at the top echelon. You're not going to bring somebody, you're not going to bring in the town accountant for Easthampton, Northampton, Springfield, or whatever the position may be. We're looking for somebody who might be an underling in that department, who has some experience with it and looking to take over his own account, or looking for someone who, like David, was retired at the point in time he took over us, you know. And he was looking for 20 hours as opposed to a full-time position.
I guess my concern is if you find out that the going market rate is higher than the highest you have here, can you exceed that based on what you've posted?
Well, I think we can go back and repost. But if you go higher than this and you're bringing the person in at the same salary that David's making now, and he's been here
20-something years.
20-something years. You don't want to bring, you wouldn't want to bring in a new person at the rate that we're paying after 20 years.
That's true.
That was my rationale.
Yeah, makes sense.
But at the same time, the market has also gone up during those 27 years.
What, are we assuming that David was only making market rate entry-level position?
I don't know.
No, I mean, that's the way I
We
was.
need to take a look at other towns, similar towns. and
Well,
see-
there's such a range, I mean, we had a survey in here somewhere, but it's a wide range, and it's an relatively,
I saw it actually too, and the range is pretty wide. It goes all over the place.
And I don't think in that survey, but I can recall, it gave time and service in there. It simply gave what they
Yeah.
earned, but it didn't say 5 years' experience or 10 or 20. And I think that's what we're trying to place a lot of this credibility on, or the hiring of it, or what to pay them.
I mean, what, you know, we interview it, we put this out, we see what we get. If we don't get somebody that's acceptable, we,
Okay.
you know, we come back and
20
review.
to 30,000 is very low. For somebody.
Yeah, but David's making
For
40.
somebody that's going to do a top-notch job for us,
Isn't David 40?
20 to 30,000.
David's 40 now.
Pardon?
David's 40 now.
Well, take a look, we had some numbers at one time.
Wow.
And
That's my
They
opinion.
were quite a bit above, I mean, there was a range, but weren't some quite a bit above 40?
It depended on the hours. Were they full-time? Like Doug said, how many years of experience do they have? It's not specified in those surveys.
I'm just thinking it would be desirable to not have to repost, to have enough flexibility in the beginning, because when we posted for Diana, it took months and months of procedure to do that.
Well, I mean, that was my rationale. Anybody else is certainly free to express theirs, and I'll listen.
So did we
How
get,
about 35?
didn't we get some information that we shouldn't just put negotiable, that we should put a range?
Yes, part of the bylaws, we're supposed to put a range.
Bylaws.
Yes.
Why don't we put 20 to 45, and based on an approximate 20-hour week?
Or 25 to 45?
20 to 45, does that make sense?
That's a
That way you got flexibility. If there's nothing out there that we
We have in
can
the
get,
budget now,
then we
we have
need someone.
40,000.
Yeah, but that, we got it in the budget, but you don't have to spend it.
No, but you want to get the best you can get.
You want to get the best you can for the money you can get. You don't want to dump all your money out on the table, because I guarantee you, if you put 40 on the table, that the 40's the salary, you're going to pay 40 when it's all said and done.
So how about some sort of middle ground, 32,
What did we have before? 20 to 30?
20 to 30, 32, 34?
What's $20,000 work out for 20 hours a week?
50,000 hours.
I mean, you're already well above my accounting level.
Yeah, so 20 hours a week times 50 weeks, assuming 2 weeks vacation is 1,000 hours.
You just still have to pay for that, don't you?
It's 52 weeks. Simple math.
Too big.
It should be simple math, but
It's around 26,000. 26,000, exactly.
And is there benefits above and beyond this? Let's say he gets...
Stop.
Make it simple.
Calculator stopped.
$20,000 a year. Is that his pay, and then his benefits are on top of that?
He's 20,
you get your retirement, you get,
It's
you're getting a
part-time.
municipal package on top of $20,000.
So the benefits are very, very, very substantial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The benefits here are a lot better than they are in private industry.
how many hours do you have to work to get the benefit package?
20.
20, okay.
So you get help, you can get on the health insurance problem, and you get on the pension at 20 hours.
You know, the holidays.
Yeah.
You can't eat, I mean, benefits are important, but you can't eat benefits. And, I mean, I just think you shouldn't advertise for $20,000 job.
How about
for town
24
accountants.
hours, 25 to 30?
$20,000,
So 30 to 40.
$384 a week,
Makes sense.
52 weeks. $20,000 is $384 a week for 20 hours a week.
How much a week?
$384. Now, you want me to suppose I divide that by 20?
And 30, that's $19 an hour.
So it's roughly 20 bucks an hour.
Yeah.
Right, but isn't this a salary position? So
Yeah, we're just talking about comparable rates.
And that, you know, I mean, I'll move that we leave it at $20,000 to $30,000. See what happens for 20 hours, as we posted it before.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded to leave it at 20 to 20, what was it, Michael, 25?
20 to, whatever it was,
20 to 30?
20 to 30, depending on experience and qualification, part-time, 20 hours, 4 days a week.
Did you say approximately 20 hours a week?
That's what it says here.
Okay, I just wanted to ensure that.
Well, no, it says part-time, 20 hours, 4-day work week. How
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
does it?
That's what you had. You wanted that person to come in 4 days and then
Strike-
whatever meetings.
Well, I guess I would strike the 4-day work week, and if they want to do 3,
Whatever, just when they do.
that gives them more flexibility. You may draw in somebody else more interested in the position for less money because it's more flexible.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we have then as a motion finally?
Move that we offer keep the personnel request form at 20 to 30, 20-hour work week, part-time.
Okay, the motion has been made to, and seconded to have the personnel request form, PRF, posted at $20,000 to $30,000 annual salary with expectation of 20 hours per week, work week, or part-time position, which would, however, qualify for insurance.
Yeah. Cost of insurance, pension, and all the other municipal benefits.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Wait a minute, you got discussion on the other end.
May I just, if the person comes in that's more qualified, you could always still bring that back to the
Right.
the policy board and
Right.
ask for additional funds. It's a start.
I think it's been made the mistake to put everything on the table to start the job discussion.
Good
That's what-
negotiation, for sure. All righty, well, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
You're guessing too?
It's yours, Jess.
It's mine.
You gotta make it or break it.
Make it or break it. This is like American Idol or something, or what's it?
You're on the hot seat.
Are you going to sing? Don't sing.
Andy's got a knife in your back right now.
So I'm going to go with the nays. I'd like to see a little bit more.
Yeah.
Motion does not carry. We need a new motion so we can post this.
I'd like to move 32 hours between $30,000 and $40,000 for a new town accountant, so that we can get a person that can manage this, and we won't have to second guess. And I feel that they should at least have that amount of money.
So what did you suggest?
32 hours between 30 and 40,000 annually.
But what if we don't need them 32 hours?
How many hours is David working right now?
20 to 24.
Is that a sufficient amount of time for him to do what he needs to do?
Yes.
Well, of course, now, these days, most kids have gone to college that are in this field, and if you're paying a student loan, substantial money you put out, I think that $30,000 to $40,000 is a reasonable amount for the position that they would hold here as a town accountant.
So you want to change the hours? Or
Yeah.
just-
For that amount of money, they should work at least 32 hours.
That'll give you a top end. So a motion's been made to post position 32 hours with the salary range 30 to 40. DOE experience. What did I say?
I'll second it.
Okay, you can second? Okay, can we discuss it?
Sure.
Okay, if he's doing it in about 20 now, 20 hours.
20 to
what-
24.
Okay, so you want to up it to 30?
32.
To 32? Why? We don't need it. Well, now we don't need it, put it like that. Why would you believe we're gonna need it if we hire somebody else?
Well, I mean, I just believe we have the finance board and then we have the town administrator, and it's so complicated, and I think we need another person to guide us through this whole process. and that person should know what they're doing, and it might take more hours. It would be very helpful to all boards, all departments.
Well,
of the town.
couldn't we, instead of, say, 32 hours, couldn't we say between 20 and 32 hours per week, and the pay would be between such and such and such and such? Because after the person starts, we're going to find out
Right.
what the person has, okay,
Right.
and how long it's going to take to do it approximately, once they get into it. And so if we've given them too much time to do it, and too much money to do it, we haven't really done our job as selectmen.
Right, okay, well, if we,
Can I make a further comment? Did we put this PCF through the Finance Committee and everything else? Because if we are, we're wasting our time discussing it.
We
because
have not done.
What
It hasn't-
position, what position are you talking
Town
about?
accountant.
Did you guys sign off on that? Okay. Then I just wanted to save the discussion. If you had signed off on it at the lower salary amount,
No?
We withheld it.
That's one of our questions tonight.
Yep, well, we're in the process of giving you an answer, so.
Can we,
Well, maybe we,
can we have some input?
Sure.
I mean, from our point of view, and we speak individually, that the town accountant and the town administrator, excuse the expression, two most important positions as far as advising the board, I think.
Right.
I mean, we have the town clerk, have the town treasurer, both very important, but these two positions are the financial links to everything. And we know, from the town accountant's point of view, we would like a strong town accountant to work with us on these also, because in the past it hasn't been so. And I think a lot of the reports and the information that we wanted hasn't been forthcoming. Is that a factor of not enough time, or a factor of somebody splitting themselves too much in two towns? I'm not sure, but you need to get somebody qualified and good, and 32, I mean, we were going to recommend a full-time town accountant and increase that money in the budget. Because that person, once they get in here, he or she can do a lot more than what's being done now. I mean,
I think that's what I needed to hear.
Assist the town administrator tremendously, I would think, because those two can work on this stuff.
So the number of hours that are being put in now aren't necessarily the number of hours that actually perhaps need to be done for the town.
Again, like somebody said, you don't know that 100%, but I mean, for what we're seeing, what we have now versus what we need, it would indicate we need more hours.
but didn't we only start running into the problem recently of delinquent reports?
What?
Didn't we only start running into the problem of delinquent reports fairly recently?
I remember that issue that we had with filing late
That's
recently.
within the past couple years.
That's been ongoing for years.
But I'm saying within the last 12 months, we've run into the problem with delinquent reports and that sort of thing.
Last 12 months, yeah. But other reports haven't been filed in years past. So it's, you know, there's a record, and I know what you're saying, but I don't know if that's the answer or not.
But do we want to put somebody, once you fill that full-time position, you're never going to make it a part-time position again. The question is, do we have to have a full-time accountant at this point in time?
well, what about,
What's full-time to you, over a certain amount of hours?
20.
what,
Well, the discussion right now is making it a 32-hour position. And we've always had a 20-hour position.
I guess the comment would be, and I know this just from where I work trying to hire people, is that what are you going to get for 20 hours? You want somebody that's real good, qualified, has the credentials, and probably the people that have that aren't out there looking for 20 hours.
right, that's right. And I also
Well,
point
we
out
also
that
have somebody
at
in-
school, and they probably have massive loans, if, you know, you get somebody, so I'm saying, I'm trying to move from 24 to 32 hours for $30,000 to $35,000 a year.
Well, right now, we're paying $40,000.
Right, even 30 to 40.
And that extrapolates, at 3 days a week, that extrapolates to $66,666 or something like that a year. So that's how much an hour, and then back into it that way. Derek's an accountant, you can tell me what a good wage is for an accountant, I mean, to come in and do that.
I know that, you know, coming right out of college, no experience, they can command 41.5 in this area.
But we want experience.
But you want experience, you want somebody who's, and again, there's no training for the municipal area. You know, that's the average, you know. You can go into, you know, Hartford, you're probably looking at closer to 50. And that's for somebody with no experience right out of college, so.
Right.
So what we're discussing here then is the possibility of putting something out in the personnel request form, and then depending on the resumes that we get back and applications, and possibly even going higher if we need to. So what we're trying to strike is a middle ground here.
Do you have a job description?
Yeah, we sure do. It's defined under Mass General Law, Section 41. So we have, that's what we were going to post.
That's what you're going to use, rather than a job description we tailor to our town?
So we have a motion that's been made here to amend this PRF, or to have it say 24 to 32 hours, 30 to 35,000 a year.
30 to 40. Because he's saying the average is 45,000.
Okay,
right
so
at
you're
the top.
changing, okay. So the motion is now, sorry, 30 to 40,000, 24 to 32 hours a week. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to amend, if we need to, the PRF to state then that the time will be 24 to 32 hours a week, and the salary would be 30 to 40,000. Any further discussion?
30 to 45, still 30 to 40.
30 to 40.
Well, this is an improvement over the original 20 to 30 that we had been in 20 hours.
Right.
Does finance have any?
You're paying 40 now for 24 hours?
Right.
So now you're saying 24 to 32 hours, and you're keeping it at 40?
Well, part of the thinking there, Bob, is that the current town accountant represents 27 continuous years of experience, so he's gone up in step grades, so to speak, even though there are no specific step grades.
But if you got somebody who was semi-retired and had all the experience, boy, he or she would be a find, I would think. Is there a way to put salary commensurate with experience?
We tried that, we got pushback from the Personnel Policies Procedures Board saying that it was a town bylaw that you have to post the numbers. So that was my original suggestion, but it got, pushed back.
Has this position been scored by personnel policy? It has to be rescored, so this is going to have to be rescored through the personnel policy board.
So we shouldn't even be discussing this. Am I correct, Mr. Cole?
No, we don't have
You can
to.
discuss anything you want, it's just that if you're changing the current job description, not changing the hours, but if you're changing the duties and responsibility, it will have to get rescored.
We're not doing that. We're using the same description.
That's your hard day Kilson at?
Yep.
Well, there's a whole job description, you're saying you're using what the description is out of Mass General Law.
Correct.
That's not what his description is. I believe his description was spelled out by the board years ago, and he had a contract also.
We just signed a new contract with him
Right.
6 months to a year ago.
You can have all the discussion you want. I'm just saying that if you're going to change the job, you're going to have to rescore it. Because he's got 27 or 20 years of experience here through the steps and grades of the position. And if you're going to score it, you want a more qualified person, and you're asking for more qualifications, his score originally is going to have to be changed from what the account was before, because he was scored at a much lower rate than today's, what you're looking for scoring.
But yet the Personnel Board gave us recommendations already on the salary, so how can that be?
Based on the current job description. All right?
How can you come back at 20 to 25 when you're paying 40 and asking the same
I come back
hours?
at 25.
That's what personnel came back to us with.
Because you gave us a number of hours, Jess, you're dealing with.
No, we got both. We got hours and dollars.
You came for us with different questions and answers, we answered them. You want to twist them? I don't know. I'm just saying that you need, if it's going to change the current job description, you need to have it rescored. And if it's going to require more responsibility, the scoring can be higher. It's going to be in the benefit of recruiting a better person.
True. So you're saying that we cannot even vote on this PRF then?
You should go, if you're going to submit the job, put the job posting and the description together, we do it all at once.
Well, we have to get somebody.
Yeah, we need to
We do
submit.
it all at once, the same night. We can rescore it. The board and the finance committee can come there and, work with us in the scoring. Because we take inputs from people we're going to be working with. And then we adjust it accordingly. But you have to go through a scoring process. That's our bylaw. The only exceptions from that is union contracts and school personnel.
Town administrator, fire chief, and police chief are also exempt.
They can be exempt. They can. They don't have to be.
They trump personnel and policies over master. That's the
I'm
way.
telling you, if you choose to have them scored, and the other thing too is we have a bylaw that says they have to be scored. So, I'm not a lawyer, but if you have a bylaw that citizens voted on versus something else that has been approved by the AG's office, you might trump it, but you might go back and say, wait a minute, you're violating the bylaw.
But our intention's not to change the job description.
But he's saying that there was an interim job description under which David Keelson was hired, which we're not conforming with. So the one that he gave us is his job description. He said this is it. So we're confused up here, which is
We're
not.
confused too. We've been waiting for a report, and we've been waiting for what you guys want. We've been willing to give you what you want, but you need to give us a posting and a job description.
Well, we want to authorize the posting.
We have to do it at a board meeting. I
So
didn't
that-
authorize a posting here.
So what you're saying then is that select board and personnel policies and finance all have to meet together to do this?
I'm saying that they can. If you're going to change the position, okay, and you're going to ask for experience, and you're going to ask for a degree, and you're going to ask for certain duties that are not defined today in your job descriptions, you need to rescore those because you're doing a detriment to the position, because what we had was a very small budget before with minimum amount of requirements. All right, we were fortunate to find somebody who had these qualifications that was retired and wanted a job part-time. That's what it was built for.
So
Okay?
can we
What I'm
as a...
saying is, if you're looking to produce this into something more involved, with more responsibility, we don't have that right now. But if you want to bring it to us, we'll score it, and then it will reflect in the scoring what the proper pay would be.
So what will we bring to you?
A job
Job
description.
description and a
Let's
posting.
write a job
Exactly.
description
And at
together.
that point,
Easy.
we'll take the old description, look at it, compare it, and rescore it. And then you as a board of selectmen, who you work under, and the finance committee, would add things to the scoring, because we only interpretate what his bosses are looking for.
So we're not at liberty then as a board to discuss the salary, our recommendations for salary?
Yes, you can do that.
That's what we're trying to do here. I think what...
But you can't, it sounds like you can't vote on it, I mean, because you gotta
I
have...
can't vote on it, I'm only one member.
No, but
No,
can we vote on it?
You can make a recommendation.
That's what we're trying to do.
Skills.
Right.
Okay.
It sounds
All
like...
right, and then you still got to go through the process of
Yeah.
policy procedures saying, okay, goes to the finance committee, they have enough money, and then you have to say, I want to hire this person, everything is done properly. A 4E check, he has the experience, he did work here, he has a history.
That's down to the minutia, Ed. We're talking about what are we going to send to you. That's all we're talking about. I got my hand
Job
on the cookie.
description and a
Job description and
posting.
Okay.
If you want to add, be there.
Yeah, or maybe a recommendation on what we feel it should be, so they can consider it, and like I said,
I would
we can go to the meeting.
Somebody from each board be there
Yeah.
to contribute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
But as a starting point, is everybody okay with at least agreeing on what we think we would present to the Personnel Policies Procedures Board?
It's the same thing, every, job description and PCF.
And the posting.
Posting.
You need the posting too if you're going to move forward.
Yeah, that's what we got.
So we need the approximate hours.
What job description, the one in the Mass General Law or the one?
Yeah, Mass General Law.
What about the one that Dave was working under?
That becomes a debate here. I think if we use the state one, then you gotta go to Personnel Policy Board. If you use David's old one,
It still has Mass General Law reference to the old one.
I mean, it's always a good opportunity to do a job description, say, hey, what do we need right now? You know, because Dave's been in a while, maybe we need different things and...
Update.
Yeah, update it, doesn't hurt.
Right.
So how does the board want to proceed with this thicket in which we find ourselves?
think we should meet with the Finance Committee and ourselves, and who else would be relevant?
Well, can I make a
And
suggestion?
the Personnel Board, a member of the Personnel Board.
We have the Mass General Laws, we have Dave's old job description. Should somebody, one or two people, a little ad hoc committee, sit down and put all the things together that they think is right, and then present a draft of something? If you start with nothing,
Right.
it'd be a long and tedious process with 10 people.
Yeah, and we need to get an accountant pretty quick, because
We've been working on this for weeks. Okay, so what we have is, our original position was because it is defined in Mass General Law, we thought, well, we shouldn't reinvent the wheel necessarily because there are certain compliances and procedures and things that have to
That may be a
happen.
great base to start with. You know, I'm not saying no, but just 1998 on the date on there, so that just tells me.
Well, Constitution was written and finally in 1787 was approved and we still use that.
How many amendments and changes? have we
21.
made?
So why don't we decide what we're going to do? and-
Rest my case.
There's a motion on the floor.
Right, it hasn't been seconded.
Correct. Well, actually, it was seconded,
was
now we're just
seconded.
waiting for everybody to,
Well,
Discuss.
we've got to withdraw the motion if we can't really vote tonight, right?
A suggestion, do you want to change the motion that you have a committee of one or two or three or four, whatever you want to do, sit down and draft one?
Hash it out?
Yeah, and one or two of us, if you want us, we'll be glad to help.
isn't that the same concept of meeting with the Personnel Board? Wouldn't you want to do that all together at once?
I think
Finance, Select Board,
we
and
want to
Post-
present something to them. That way they can look at it.
Well,
They don't want to design it.
understand what the
Right.
personnel policy does. We have a book that gives various weights to different characteristics of the job. And when you finish with the job, you total up the points and you come to a classification
Right,
for the salary in that.
right. As we both know from being on there, the amount of experience and all
Right, but
that
that-
brings it up or down.
Right, but somebody should, and that's what somebody should be there to present from the boards, but I don't know that you want to lengthen the process by getting together to decide those issues first, because you may not come out the way you want it to come out when you score it.
Right, but we have to give them
Right.
a job description.
Right, and pick one of the job descriptions, either the existing one that David works under or the state one, whichever one you're going to do.
Right. Yeah, I was just saying a third option, do you want to look at it? It's up to you guys, but.
So I have an idea here, then what we could vote on is the board's position with respect to the number of hours and the salary range pursuant to a job description to be defined and presented to the Personnel Policies Board. I love it.
So our recommendation. Do we know?
So the board, as a board, recommends, subject to a complete and final and approvable or approved job description, the hours and the salary. So we have two significant components already done.
Why don't we wait until, if I may suggest, wait until we get a final analysis from the Joint Committee of Finance and Select Board, just a couple of each, to see what the job description is going to be and how many hours, blah, blah, blah. Then they can present it, and then we can all go to personal policies and procedures. Because we're going to know where we're going after we compile everything.
Well, my experience, if we could actually pass something over to finance, and then they could take a look at it and react to it rather than being proactive in our trying to come up with a job description, will save a lot of time.
But it sounds like what Doug is saying would follow even that process, you know, wait until we both come up with something. I guess the process Mike was talking about, the personnel, you know, it's a process I think we all agree with is kind of not as good as it could be, but it is what it is, so it needs a good job description and it needs proponents from each board here. If we just say we want to vote, it's going to be between 30 and 40, I don't think that really is in sync with what the...
We should know where we're going before we start them over
Cart
there.
before the horse, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so whoever made the motion, you have the option at this point to withdraw it. Motion's been made and seconded, and then we need to have a substitute, as it was suggested over there, that we actually appoint a couple of people to work on this.
well, then I withdraw the motion
Okay.
in light of the new information that we've spoken about, and that, that we'll bring it to the Finance Board and try to get the job description down to then make a fair assessment of the pay rate and hours to do the job properly.
Okay. Does the second wish to withdraw his or her second?
I withdraw my second.
Okay, so you've amended your motion technically. Do you want to technically second it?
I second the amended motion.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion as amended and seconded? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, another round with the town accountant.
Eileen here.
Yes, I know.
Can she
Eileen,
sign
can she
for the-
notarize while she's here? Eileen, or is she here?
Sure. That's why I put it on there. 'Cause I-
We have that one item she could sign on.
Yep, there's six. Six items. Okay, so moving on to the next thing then is the Finance Committee, who's here. So I will go with Eileen and notarize those. Up to you.
Whoever does that, let me know. We can fix them in the computer
Jeff, can you take over with
I don't know if you want to start it or if you want us to start it, but they...
Okay, Finance? Jess is going to leave us for a moment so we could convene and go with it.
So we're all set?
Yes, go ahead.
We're here with the budget that was, I guess, hashed out pretty much last night, so we're here for input, I believe, from the departments. And we have some out there, all smiling. Come on.
Yeah, smile, please.
This is the final?
Does everybody have a copy of the
There are some right here.
situation?
Obviously, I understand PD not included, but okay, so if we add him, then we gotta add everything. Let me tell you, last night was a nightmare. We didn't miss anything on it. We know if there's balances. We know how much over.
You have a packet of expense, probably, expense budgets in your hand, so that's the one you want to look at.
This one. This is the newest one. Do you have it? Says right there?
Yes.
Okay.
What the total would be for
Is Jessica with that?
God, I hope so, because I don't know what's going on. This is my worst subject, Finance.
The manager's on it?
That's why we need a good town accountant.
That's right. Let's pay the manager or woman.
Okay, if you could please guide us through this. This is my worst subject, so. And I will admit it openly.
13,000?
How do you want to be guided through? I'm not sure what you mean. There is a report out there, that's the expense report, that shows by department, on the top it says fiscal 12 approved, wage fiscal 13 requested, et cetera, to the last column. Next to the last column, it says fiscal 13 recommended. That's probably the one you want to look at.
Yeah, that's right, this one's sort of.
Looks like this.
So, do the departments in general have questions on their particular lines? In the records note, do we have a happy department?
Quick. Oh, right there, happy to come, my first one.
49,000.
So the library is happy? Is the moderator happy? Moderator's happy? Moderator's happy?
Wow.
Supporting keeping the extended libraries going so that they have staff that really,
We felt that was a good addition to it.
Happy to do that.
Okay, you ready for this, guys? We now go to the back row. The police and the highway department.
Well, last night we talked extensively about putting on a visual police officer. And Mike, you had asked for some statistics and some numbers.
Yep.
One of the things that we did talk about last night that I want to bring up tonight is an issue that I have brought to the board's attention in the past, and that is the low staffing levels of part-time officers and the town's continued reliance on having part-time officers fill the gaps and vacant shifts, as opposed to using full-time officers for that. Just to recap on the previous discussions I had with the board on that, in short, over the past couple of years, we've had a lot of difficulty retaining part-time officers. They have left for a number of reasons, some of them due to their age, some of them because they got offered full-time jobs someplace else. We've had a history of part-time officers, more or less using Southampton as a stepping stone to become full-time officers. Previously, I spoke to the board how just this past year, I spent $15,000 on training part-time officers. 3 officers. We lost 3 officers this year. So you have a revolving door with part-time officers and expenses that are coming out of the police department that we're not really reaping any benefits from. We've also lost some full-time officers, part-time officers, just because of the demands of the job. You have a part-time officer who has a regular full-time job, a day job, and has a family, and then we expect that person to be able to come in and work a 4 to midnight shift, or a midnight to 8 shift, or a holiday, a weekend, whatever it may be. Oftentimes, I have to allow part-time officers to leave short of the completion of their 8-hour shift because they need to get to work for 7 o'clock in the morning. They may come in and fill in because someone called in sick on a midnight shift, but I got to let them go at 6 o'clock in the morning, then we're down to 1 officer on duty. That guy's got to get to his full-time job. We've had people in the past 2 years, we've probably lost 4 or 5 part-time officers because the demands of police work were too much for them to be able to juggle in their personal lives and professional lives. And so we've had a lot of difficulty maintaining the part-time staff. In previous years, we've gotten away with that, and we've used part-time people extensively to fill all the gaps. It just simply isn't working anymore. So as you know, I've been advocating to add full-time people. We all know the town has grown, call demand has grown, and I believe that it's time to stop the reliance on part-time people. Part-time officers still have a place within the department because it can still ease officer replacement when you have a sick day or officers are on vacation. Instead of utilizing full-time officers and paying them overtime, there's savings by maintaining the part-time staff and using the part-time officers. But having them and relying on part-time people to fill the gaps on a regular basis simply isn't working. One of the problems that I've experienced over the last couple of years with this part-time shortage is burnout of the full-time officers. I have had to, on numerous occasions, order full-time officers to stay on and work the second shift that they hadn't anticipated on or planned for or got enough sleep for when they came in for the beginning of their shift. Because someone called in sick, we didn't have enough part-time officers to fill the hole, and so somebody has to work. And so every officer, every full-time officer that we have at one time or another has been ordered to either stay beyond their shift or ordered to have to come in early for their shift in order to fill shifts and make sure that we have someone on duty. I've run into a problem recently where some of the full-time officers simply don't want a shift. We offer a full-time shift or an overtime shift becomes available to them, and they simply don't want it because they're just tired of working, they're getting burnt out. We've had a number of part-time shifts that we have only 1 officer on duty. Mike, we talked about that a little bit last night. You had wanted some numbers on that. In April, this month, there's 24 shifts where there's only 1 officer on duty. March of 2012 this year, there was 21 shifts. In February, there was 12 shifts with only 1 officer on duty. In January, there was 13 shifts. There was only 1 officer on duty. We've had a variety of calls where there has only been 1 officer on duty. And let me just go through, I pulled some calls out today. Just a brief you on the types of calls that we're expecting officers to go. We had one call where the caller advised that the subject was forcing their way into the apartment and had broken in and was taking some of the belongings. The officer had to respond to that. Some of you may or may not remember there was a gentleman just across the street that tried to blow his house up. It would probably would have taken out this building and the rest of the buildings within 300 or 400 yard circumference. Officers went to that call with gas cut loose and with a timer on it, ready in the cellar to blow the building up. Another call where officers had to respond because the son is trying to kill his mother. Another call where there was an individual that was a domestic where the victim was thrown across the room, female victim. Another call where another victim had called in, been pushed several times and been thrown up against the wall. Another one where a caller called in and said, you better send at least 2 officers to respond because the grandson is drunk and is becoming violent. Had another call where there was a domestic and the perpetrator had 3 friends as backup, assisting him in the domestic against the guy's girlfriend. And so there would be a call where you have at most 2 officers, could be 1 officer going where there's 4 people that you're going to have to contend with who are not happy that you have a police officer.
Chief, are you bringing these up because those are shifts with 1 officer on them?
Some of them are, some of them aren't. I think it's important for you to hear. As I said last night, you heard me say, too many people seem to think this is Mayberry and nothing goes on. And you think that because the Gazette and the Republican don't put it in the paper. So if it's not in the paper, in many people's minds, it doesn't happen. It happens. And as I said before, quite often I get disgusted when I look at the paper and I see some minuscule event that happened in Northampton or Easthampton and the paper reports that, and we had a more serious event at the same time in Southampton, it doesn't get reported. So people don't think anything happens. They go about their lives, and if they don't see it in the paper or hear it on the news, it didn't happen. I can keep going. If you don't want to hear it, I'll stop. But there's many, many calls where officers are put into danger in little old Southampton, believe it or not.
Didn't we just have a break-in there on Palmer Meadow a couple weeks ago, or when somebody was
About a week ago,
gone?
we had 2 evening time break-ins. One on Gun Road Extension and one on Russellville Road.
Now, with this police officer, how many officer shifts will be left, or will this take care of it? I know this has been something with you for years and years, trying to get 2 officers per shift,
Right.
7 days a week.
Right.
Where will this bring us?
This should eliminate, with the exception of 2 shifts, potentially per week, where there still could be 1 officer at times. It would be my intention to fill those other 2 shifts with the use of our small pool of part-timers.
And by having a full-time, the
So-
pool will be...
That's right. And by adding another officer, it will give us the ability to, 99% of the time, have 2 officers on all the time.
The amount we pay the part-time officers now, that'll be saved, so won't that offset some of this full-time police officer? Because we're paying them now to be there.
That was one of the numbers we asked for, was how much we're paying the part-timers per month and how much we're paying in overtime. That was one of the numbers I asked you for last night, was how much we're paying the part-timers and how much we're paying the overtime, because theoretically, the full-time officer should substantially cut down those 2 items.
That's why I'm always wondering if you have some money in there, you can go hire somebody now type of deal and just need some more for supplement next budget. It sounds like you need an officer, you know.
Well, one of the other things that I had mentioned last night was I talked about the unfortunate incident in Westfield from someone who was from Southampton. I did a little bit looking. We dealt with that individual here in Southampton 27 times over the past few years.
27.
It is just a matter of good fortune that what happened in Westfield didn't happen here. And Mike, I don't have those overtime comparisons for you.
We don't have an overtime account, which is...
No, it's all in the general
Wages.
wages,
But I guess common sense is going to tell us there's be some money left over that you can use, so...
Well, I was looking for a number that said, well, 3/4, we could fund 3/4 of this from existing revenues or existing accounts to leave us to supplement 1/4 of the account. I was looking for something that would justify,
Smaller amount to get him a full-time officer.
Full-time officer.
And now, is this figure, does that include all the benefits, academy, and all that stuff full-time?
It does not. $42,000 would be the base salary. I spoke with the treasurer today to get a more accurate estimate on what benefits would be. If an employee elects the highest or the best insurance package, HMO family plan, that would be $13,864. Every employee also costs the town about $580 a year in Medicare pay. And retirement deductions are the town contributes is about 20%. Based upon a $42,000 base salary, that would equate to $8,000 on the retirement. So total, you'd be looking at approximately just under $23,000 in benefits added onto the base salary.
That's 65K. Reggie, do we have like a percentage that we use for fringe benefits?
Say it again?
Do we have like a percentage we use, fringe benefits cost us on average 28%, or
I don't have that.
we don't calculate that?
Right, and if I was doing it at work, I would say 50%.
Oh, see, we do 28 right now at the state. It sometimes goes out high as 33 depending, but there's always a number we can just factor in there.
We would figure 33 to 50.
Just recently, we had to come up with that percentage benefit for the FEMA reimbursement. It's 29.6%.
30%.
And it's an average, because that varies.
Right.
And that comes out with what the chief said when you add 30%,
Right.
like 12, 13 grand. Okay.
Yep.
A couple other, if I just could, couple other statistics that we'd just like to put out. In 2009, we had 6,615 calls. 2010, that went up to 7,113. In 2011, it went up again to 7,476. The same year's arrests were 102 in 09. 2010, they went up to 136. And then in 2011, they went up to 138. Those are physical custody arrests. They don't include all criminal incidents or acts investigated by the officers. They don't include incidents whereby an officer opts not to arrest somebody instead of summoning them into court, which typically, on average, we have about 3 summonses to every arrest. So there's a lot of criminal incidents that occur in the town that the officers do not make an arrest on and instead opt to summon somebody in. During that same time period, from 2009 to 2010, domestics almost doubled. They went from 44 to 74. OUIs during that time period went from 43 in 2009 to 72 in 2010 to 80 OUIs in 2011. And here's a very interesting note. Incidents where calls came in and we didn't have an officer available because either the single officer was tied up on another call or both officers were tied up on another call. In 2009, there were 68 incidents where we didn't have an officer available to send to a call. 2010, there was 103 incidents. And then in 2011, it went down to 79 incidents.
Do you have a breakdown by shift, or is that mostly in the day, or is it all spread out?
It's general throughout the year. I don't have them broken down.
So even if we had 2 officers on, that's not going to help a lot of those.
Sometimes it may not, but again, the point is, all it's going to take is one incident with one officer on duty, and then we're going to be in here scrambling, talking about what we should have done.
Now, it sounds like 2 officers is a general opinion that on shift is needed. That's not, I don't think that's an issue, because you folks talked about that last night, right? Just a matter of how much money do we plug in based on what you're going to save from the part-time, so just got to figure out a number.
Right. Right, and Mike had requested some figures.
But we need to put the number in before we bring it to the town meeting, because it's easier that way. Thanks.
Okay, so we're at a point where the Finance Committee would need a stronger number with respect to the savings from moving down from the part-time, overtime people, and how much that savings would actually get mapped out onto the full-time.
I guess the information, Mike was looking for would do it, right?
That's where I would like to be, to know I think from officer safety, this is it needs to be done.
Absolutely.
But from a budgetary problem, which every action has a reaction, I'd like to support it knowing that, we need a 25% increase in expenses to that line or something else. And just chief, I could support it if I knew next year we weren't going to be increasing the salary line by some number that corresponds to what we're already paying for overtime and part-time help. It would help to know that we're going to have some savings here that this is not just purely got to come out of revenue.
Yeah.
New revenue that we don't have enough of.
Yeah, like instead of 65K, are you saving 35
Right.
on the part-time, so you only need 30 or 35? That'd be an easy number to plug in.
Right, that would be so much easier to justify, and selling it on top of officer safety is another point.
And I think we're all agreed, it's, the officers need it, it's just,
Well, as I said to the board before, and I'll say it again, I believe that looking at it solely from a offset savings or a wash, it's not going to happen. These are shifts that only have one officer on, so no matter how you cut it, you're putting an additional person on that wasn't there before.
but aren't you
There's
putting,
an unavoidable cost increase with that.
but aren't you putting a part-timer to fill in shifts that this full-timer will take?
No, because there are shifts where there's one person on duty. That's the main thing that I'm trying to avoid having is one guy on duty.
So this,
Go ahead.
you gonna say something?
Well, but I thought, when you first approached this, you said that this would also be a savings in overtime and part-time officers. One, we have a trouble getting part-time officers, and I understand that, but two, there'd be a savings in the full-time officers getting overtime at time and a half. There would be some savings that we could then explain to the public why we're doing this.
I'll work on those numbers.
Just my own curiosity, in the union contract, do you have to offer a second shift to the full-time officers, or can you give it to a part-time?
No, I had put in the contract whereby I can fill vacancies with part-timers first,
So you do have the option for the budget.
in
That's
an
good.
effort to save money.
I'm mindful that the part-time officers are probably at a lower rate than a full-time officer, and a full-time officer gets expensive when we're paying them time and a half for those shifts.
I mean, overtime is nice for people, but a police officer doing a double shift is sort of scary, you know, he's tired. If the activity level you're saying.
Well, just driving a cruiser is scary if you've been doing a double shift.
Yeah,
We may have more liability than we care to.
more concerned about the officer too.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, from his own point of view and from the public point of view.
Yeah, you're right.
There's about a $4 or $5 difference per hour between a part-time officer and a full-time officer.
But it's got to be more substantial if we keep a full-time officer on for overtime.
Well, absolutely.
It's got to go way up.
Another 12, 13 bucks.
Okay, well, thank you, Chief. So you're going to be working on those numbers. That'll help us in our putting together. Obviously, officer safety is a paramount concern. I'm sure you can see the unanimity here of agreement amongst these two boards. At the same time, with a committee and board, we certainly do need also to get some numbers. Thank you.
I'd like to address the chief.
Sure.
Chief Silvernail, if I may. By the way, we all support you very, very much. I think you understand that, and I think it's going to work out. Why does the newspapers, why do they not print our incidents and they put them down for Northampton, Springfield, Holyoke, blah, blah, blah?
That's an excellent question, and from what I have found out, that the reason for that is because of the editor at the newspaper. A lot of people don't realize that newspapers, while they profess to be there for enlightening the public and keeping the public aware of what's going on, the reality is newspapers are in business to sell ad space. That's how they survive. And stories get put in place into the layout of the page by the editor according to what is available after all the ads are in place. If you look at readership, how many papers do they sell in Northampton or Amherst versus how many papers do they sell in Southampton? They're going to cater to the larger readership circulation in the larger communities than what they do here. So if there's an ad to go in place, instead of a story from Southampton, the ad goes. If we have something real juicy, they'll make room for it. But on average, they don't put in the paper a lot of the issues and incidents that occur in Southampton. Weekly, I provide the Gazette with logs, and we put it on the website to try to get information out there, to educate the taxpayers and people that there is things that are going on. They have a right to know if we're having house breaks. They have a right to know that, you know, there's some bad incident happening in their neighborhood. But, you know, I have no control over what the paper chooses or not chooses to put in the paper, in their layouts. And, you know, that's the reason, though.
Okay, thank you.
It's all according to their available space for ads, and we just basically don't cut the mustard
Is there anything we could do as a select board or whatever to entice them to do this?
I don't think so, because it's a business, and often we overlook the fact that newspapers are primarily, first and foremost, a business. They don't stay in business from just selling newspapers, they stay in business from selling ad space.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, Eileen, you had your hand up?
Dr. Gazette, I put all the postings on the website. The Gazette and the Republican used to come in here and get all the postings for the week. Now they don't even do that. Sometimes in the paper, the only things that's in there is the Board of Selectmen and maybe the Finance Committee. No town clerk, no treasurer's office, nothing. And it took me 3 phone calls to get them to do something on the caucus this year. They just, I don't know what happened to them, but we used to have good coverage with both. And now we don't have anything. And everything's up on the website. They can go in there and get all the postings for meeting and everything. They don't even do that anymore.
We used to have a reporter, remember, sat at the meetings all the time? We did. Yeah.
She moved to Washington, and she has been replaced by a part-time person, Rebecca
Oh,
Edwards.
this is just the time sheet.
Convi, you had your hand up?
Well,
Thank you, Eileen.
You mentioned the website, so I'm just thinking for the future that people use web and internet so much more now, and I think less is using paper. And I'm wondering, and this is just going forward, that we all maybe need to utilize the website more and get the townspeople to be looking at this as a source. Because I think your point is very, just having been in the town of Florida, they publicize on the website, there's a whole thing where you go, you want to know where crime is occurring. It's very educational, and I'm quite frankly, I'm really glad to hear that, and I've missed that. So if I've missed it and I've looked at the website, I don't just say I think we could all work on it, I'd be a lot to work on it too. Because I think that would be another way to get out. Maybe there's some kind of email to townspeople we need to do. We've got to inform the townspeople about what's going on, and, you know, the safety of town employees is important, whether it's the library or it's a police officer. I think people have to understand that, you know, most of us, our budget coming is because of safety reasons. So,
I've gone so far in the past several years to put our website on the back bumper of the cruisers, hoping that people would see that and then, hey, you know, and they'll check the website, see what's going on there, you know? But, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right?
Is there any way that we could call each of the newspapers and see how many papers are sold or go to the homes of residents in Southampton, and then write the editor-in-chief, because it's all about money, and say, we have X amount of people that get this at their home delivered, some don't how many purchase them. We would all really like to know what's going on in town, and you're not publishing it, and we would appreciate it very much because we buy your paper.
Great idea.
Would that be a way to do it?
Sure. Put some
You
pressure
just
on.
grab them right by the neck. Money.
Where are you gonna go?
Pardon?
If the Gazette doesn't do anything, where are you gonna go? Springfield paper? They're not publishing our stuff either.
Just go to the two of them. If we could find out, we could ask somebody to go to them and find out, and then we could say, okay, we have X amount of people.
I agree.
That get them delivered to their homes. We don't know how many are buying them, blah, blah, blah. We would like to know what's going on. We're not getting it in. Could we? And see what they do.
It's just don't know if X is a big enough number for them to go anywhere.
Yeah.
That might inform us, yeah.
Okay, with that being, I'd like to make a motion that we ask Reggie, since she is our administrator, to go to each newspaper, the Springfield one and the Northampton one, and find out how many papers are delivered per each to the residences, and then compile them, and then write a letter to the editor-in-chief of each of the magazines or newspapers requesting that the police reports be in and that sort of thing. That way the people know what's going on.
Second.
Okay, sir?
Second, motion's been made and seconded that we call Gazette and the Springfield Union to find out,
Republican.
The Republican.
Used to be.
It's no longer union.
I guess I like them on Facebook. So, with the idea of understanding what clout we may have in the marketplace. Okay, any further discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Okay, so where are we with respect to the Finance Committee?
I believe we have Eileen and Ed Colley back there. Do you have any questions on your budget?
I'm just, the town clerk assistant wages. It's $313 difference. But I had requested more because I wanted her to keep my office open when I'm on vacation. And that would cost at least $531.95 a year. I don't think the town clerk's office is closed in the afternoon at 1:30. I think it should be open till 4 every day, the 4 days that we work. And to allow Ruth to work there, I need money in her account. It's not a raise, it's not adding hours, it's just covering the hours while I'm on vacation.
So it's adding hours to what she's working now?
Pardon?
It's adding hours to what she's working now so she can stay longer?
Yeah, she works longer now. I had a little bit more money in her account last year, but this year it's not in there where she can.
How many hours is she budgeted
She
for?
works 20 hours a week.
And how much, what will this do for you?
And then when she goes in, it's 2.5 hours a day more when she fills in for me.
Every day?
4 days, yeah. It comes out to about 35 extra days in her pay that I'm on vacation.
Oh, just while you're on vacation? Just while you're on vacation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It comes out, I think I can only about 35 days.
And that's in the amount that you requested, that $16,140?
No, I thought I had a little more in there. I don't know why.
There should have been more, because there was a miscalculation of her actual
Yeah.
hours, so it should have been more. She originally did put 16,140, but with the calculation, it came up to 16,317.72 plus the 46 cents increase, which is 515.79.
What's the 42-cent increase?
Yeah.
No, what is that for? A step raise or something?
She's currently getting paid 15.17.
Yes.
Is that right?
So is this a salary increase or a step increase, or?
Yeah, actually, no, it's like 3%.
Because we're not putting any wage increases in.
So 16,317.72.
Plus, what was the additional rate for the 40,
It's like an additional $78 on top of,
78 per year?
no, 78 total. What she originally requested on her form, what we have here on our sheets, is 16,140.
Right.
On the calculation of the sheet, she didn't calculate correctly, the wage, which what she's asking for is 16,317.
Right, 16,318 I have. But you said
That's
there's
less than
also a
200.
step raise or something that should be
No,
added
that's
to
not
it.
including the step raise. The 515 is the step raise.
So you add that to the,
And that.
so with the 515, you're up to 16,833. Right.
Point of clarification, there's no step raises.
Yeah. Wages are frozen.
We're told to freeze everything.
But a lot of departments submitted 2%, 1%, 3%. That I did not.
So,
The 515 don't include that. That's the additional 46 cents.
so we're not including this, so it's,
It should be 16,318.
okay, but you were saying add the 515.
On
So don't
the
add
form
it.
here is what it says.
Okay, so we're not adding that, okay.
Correct.
16,318 is where we're at versus 15,827 roughly is where,
Correct.
No, it's nothing.
okay, I think we're at 515?
500. 50.
So it's only a few dollars, so, you know, we'll talk amongst ourselves, but I don't think there's going to be an issue. You're only talking a few $100s there. So let us put that in. Do the folks on the finance committee okay with that? Yeah. So Eileen, we just quickly talked about it, we're in session, so we'll put it in, okay? You're welcome, thanks for bringing it up.
Okay, thanks, Eileen. Next, department head? Ed Colley.
Just a point of clarification, I believe my wife, but this additional increase in highway wages is for the janitorial position that is being taken off the books in this building here and put on my books and fill it from a part-time 24 hours to a 40-hour position. All right?
Yeah, we took money from other accounts.
And I do appreciate the increases on the expenses. They're going to go away to help us out. I do want to commend the board for the third year in a row, increasing winter roads. It is making a difference to what results some of the deficits are due by having anything. And this is the third year in a row we've added something to it versus what we requested, but it's making a difference. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ed. That was pretty. Any comments, discussions from either the committee or the board on that? Okay, so where do we need to go from here? Then we've talked to all department heads. Reggie.
I just have one question. Where is the select board with the police officer? Should we put this in? Should we not? Next meeting is when that warrant needs to be signed.
Well, waiting for a number.
Is that when we're going to do that and then make the final vote?
Because it shouldn't be, this number should be a lower number we're thinking, but that's got to be proven out by the chief.
Well, we're thinking the total increase in the wage line shouldn't be $42,000.
Well, I don't know, we had 52, then if you, when the chief was talking about all the other bennies, it's technically 65.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I'm only looking at the wage line in the police department.
Yeah.
Hopefully, when he comes in with some numbers, some of that's going to be already in the budget, so we don't have to put a whole 42,000 in. It may require 30, it may require 20, but maybe not the whole 42. The insurance is that's...
So we have to include the benefits.
That's going to be the full vote on those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What, did somebody say earlier, maybe the chief said that the retirement was 8,000? And what's the percentage? If a person's wage is 42,000, they put 8,000 in retirement? That's 20%?
That's what I think he said, 20%.
Contribute. An individual retiring, I think, pays 11, and the new employees are paying even higher than 11%. And I think the existing employees have to pay an additional 2% that was added there 3-4 years ago, on top of 11%. The new hirees are much higher.
I think the chief said it was 20%.
Treasurer told me that
on their contribution.
Yeah, the treasurer told me that she checked with Hampshire County Retirement today, and they told her that it was 20%.
Is that our share?
Contributes 20% toward retirement?
She said.
Wow.
I think you need a clarification on that because from what I was told in the past, the town pays it after they retire.
Yeah,
I might be wrong.
Well, and that number, the number that we need to work with is the salary number to know what, if we can justify the officer, because if we can justify the officer, that's going to come along no matter what number is. I mean, we're going to have to plan some number for benefits, but the insurance is the big number there anyway, especially if he takes the family plan or...
And the figures I gave were based upon the
highest, and there, yeah.
Yeah, so it depends if it's a married, children, yada, 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 so...
But, I mean, you got to plan that that's what it's going to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, we could get a single guy in here, and that'd be great, but...
You don't go looking for that, you go looking for the best, so...
Okay.
So the only open item is the police?
Well, yeah, Reggie, if you can adjust the budget number up to
16,318, yeah. I'll send it to you.
That would be the only one.
16,318, okay.
So this is the budget. Do we need a motion to adopt this as the budget?
Contingent on the...
Police officer?
Police officer.
I'd do that motion if that's what we need.
Can I talk about another department? May I talk about another department that I'm responsible for?
Sure.
Wages on the Parks Department have not been increased maybe 9 years, or 8 years. We're in a deficit now, And we have been augmenting, every time we run into this problem, highway department is spending more time over there and spending the highway department's money for a duty that is strictly park department. Just bringing it on your radar and reminding you again, there's not sufficient expense money, and not sufficient wage money in the recovery. I don't submit the budget to you, the Park Commission does, but I don't know if they've ever showed up, but those line items have been, there's been no increase. And I know we're out of money in expenses, and there's going to be a transfer request for both those items.
This year?
Yeah.
Who's their employee? Because they've got $4,588.
Highway Department personnel.
Oh, that's your personnel, but they don't request.
Go over there, we have to charge it to the.
Right, but they're not requesting enough money to cover your charges. And they've got a expense line of $2,090.
And I believe we're at or just in a deficit there now. And we do have, they have their electric bills to pay out of it, but we have 3 months of fuel bills for cutting the grass and stuff that gets charged.
That gets charged.
Also the trash bill that gets charged in the transfer station.
That gets
Come due in June.
that's what the expense line goes for, is the gas and the trash and
Electricity and
electricity.
any repairs in the pavilion or fountain.
Let me just make sure I'm hearing right. So if you sent one of your highway folks over to do it, you recharge them the wages? You recharge them the wages of your highway department person?
Remember, the highway department does, if we had 52 weeks a year, it would never be a problem.
Okay.
We only have roughly an average 40 weeks. So this goes.
That's one of the funding sources to get it? Gotcha.
But this is why, this crazy business that we bill back and forth amongst departments, which is why we talked about the DPW years ago.
Yeah, it makes
The
sense.
expense of billing back and forth for these,
Yeah, paperwork, yeah.
crazy.
Okay. Anything further? Michael has made a motion that we actually adopt this budget as presented with the exception of the police numbers. And Reggie, I understand that procedurally we could actually approve this next Tuesday and still get it in time?
Yes.
I'll second that.
I've been down to the wire, so we have a motion made and seconded to approve this budget.
Well, my intention by making that motion is to lock these numbers other than the police number in place.
Right.
We're not going to,
Police number's not in this budget yet.
all right, but my point for making that motion is this is the budget as far as all other departments are concerned.
And do you want to add to the motion and put in a number for the new police officer not to exceed blank, so that you don't have to go back and change it?
I think I'd like to hear the chief's numbers.
That's what I mean, you plug in the numbers once you know. but-
Oh, so that we put it in?
Not to exceed what's presented here.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 42,000, so you're saying it's not going to go over that, so if you put to fund the position not to exceed 42,000, for instance, once you talk to the chief, you guys can decide what the number.
That throws the budget out of balance, doesn't it, to 42?
No, so far, we're 57,483.
Well, it would throw it out of budget when we plug in the insurance numbers.
It'll throw it, if you have to do more than insurance, like the retirement and the Medicaid.
You're going to throw it out of budget.
If it costs more than 57,483.
Okay.
We know the budget could go out of whack with the regional vote anyway.
Well, and that's the other issue is we got to face is that we have roughly $50,000 now, but we're playing.
Oh, we know that we're not going to have a surplus after a few more weeks. Yeah, we're going to be using free cash to fund this budget. The question mark is, how much?
Yeah.
I thought we voted to put 50% aside. Is that still in place?
What?
Yes.
50% of free cash was going to go into the two stabilization.
There are articles on the warrant for each stabilization fund, a set amount. When do you have to determine that amount?
May 1st.
So at your next meeting. Now, we had talked about 100 for each one. And I don't know if anybody's going to come up with a different recommendation between now and May 1st, but that was what we had talked about a few weeks ago, right?
I think it was voted 50% of free cash,
Right.
and then to take that dollar amount and split it between the two accounts. I think
That's
that's what we voted.
380,
Well, at least 50 was the
Yeah.
comment.
At least
Not exactly 50, but, yeah.
We're recommending 100,000 in each.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion then made and seconded to lock in these numbers with the exception of the police as the budget to be presented and subject obviously to change on next Tuesday night. Made and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
You guys want to vote on this? Okay, I think that takes care of all the elements unless any more open time for the public. Sir?
I need the board's permission to talk to council in regards, where we feel bids, where we have some process, so I need to talk to council about the structure, a few technical questions to ask also about the award the contract.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve? Oh, one more, motion to approve?
Second.
In favor? Okay, good. Anything else, Reggie, that we might have missed? You have
There was one item that was on the admin report, which was an attorney had sent a letter asking if the town is interested or seeking new town council. Is the board members, what would the board members like to do?
Asking what?
new town council.
He doesn't have his rates down, I don't think, does he?
And what about that?
And we got a letter saying, would you like to do that, to work with somebody new?
Well, we'd have to go out for request for proposals.
Right.
You know.
Remember we did that some years ago?
Yeah,
Guy
I mean-
Holyoke?
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was not an easy task for
I mean, I don't have any problems with Kaufman and Page.
I don't either.
I don't either.
So you guys are happy with
Yep.
that?
And just, well, for this board's, we always put things on Reggie constantly, and I happen to be going through the payroll tonight, and I don't know whether you noticed it, but I think we should extend a public thank you to her, because she's worked 48 hours in the last 2 weeks that are published on this salary thing for a part-time position.
We're working on that too, but yes,
Yeah.
Reggie, thank you so much for the going above and beyond the call of duty.
There's a number of 12-hour days in there,
Yep.
like tonight.
Thank you, Reggie.
Are we done?
It's up to you. You make a motion.
So moved.
Second, in favor?
Aye.
I couldn't resist that.